Well, that's an odd angle. Goodness. And now they've moved where they. Every time a person goes live on YouTube, they've changed something. All right. Odd background. Weird lighting, terrible hair. Oh well. Cat fur on a black t-shirt. Hi, Carrie Bishop. I had cat fur on my black t-shirt, and it's still raining. And I'm wondering if we're pixeling. Are we pixeling? Tell me. Tell me if we're pixeling. It looks good? Okay. Well, I know I look good, Carrie. I'm wondering if the signal is good. Of course, I look good. I'm a cult leader, for crying out loud. For Peter's sake. I need to take this nail polish off. I'll take that as I'm not pixelating, or whatever the word is. Yes, the signal's good. Okay. Because with the rain, I was texting Lillian earlier. Hi, I'm too honest for this. And hit send, like always. And a few minutes later, I had this little notice, and the text had failed to send. And I hope you read Mustang. It was like, tap, tap to retry. And I did, and it took it a while to send. So I was worried about if we're pixelating. So I don't have any content. I'm bored. I've been watching a lot that I could comment on. But I don't really have anything good to say about a lot of what I've been watching. I know. So I do have Snow White is the last story. I hate that we're down to the last story. Snow White is the longest one, so I've saved it till last. So I do have that for story time content. But insofar as commentary, critique, criticism, opinion, review, and whatever the heck I want to say, I have mostly been watching channels that are talking about the Sebastian Rogers case. And over the last few days, Sniffany Marie has slithered out of her coffin. Now, I don't sub to nor watch. As a matter of fact, Tiffany Marie is on my do not recommend. But y'all know that I watch channels that talk about other channels like I talk about other channels. I do try to keep it on the positive side nowadays in reviewing or critiquing or commenting on another channel or other channels in hopes of I'm sorry I keep looking off over there because y'all know I'm trying really hard these days to control my temper on a live stream as well as my language. And when I look away from you kids, I'm editing in my brain before I speak. And when you cuss as much as I do, and you go off like I do, it can cause one to feel like they have like a muzzle or a bridle, even though it's self-imposed. So I cannot comment. Hi, KB. I know, honey. And that's why I really, hi, Blue Eyes Dumplings. I want so badly to keep things over here as uplifting, positive, good vibes as I can. Some days it's not too hard to do. Other days, hi, Cherokee girl, it's really challenging. Okay, so taking into account that I have not watched Tiffany Marie, but I was in the chat and watching the live stream on Queen Bee last week when Tiffany Marie slithered out of her coffin onto Queen Bee's panel in order to throw shade on Duchess for the blip boards, more precisely donations taken in by Duchess in order to purchase blip boards on behalf of missing 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers out of Hendersonville, Tennessee. She did not, as is her pattern, make any direct accusations. But in her evil, maniacal way, stepped right up to the line through implication that somehow or another Duchess was either scamming, grifting, thieving, misappropriating, and otherwise not being accountable for the funds for the blip boards for Sebastian Rogers, where you can go on the internet and actually see the map of where the billboards are. Duchess has been on her channel live clarifying the situation. And Chris and Katie Proudfoot, the mother and the stepfather and mother of Sebastian Rogers, themselves donated to Duchess for blip boards for their son. And stand in support of Duchess's, I beg your pardon, efforts to bring awareness across the United States to travelers and motorists on interstates as well as highly traveled highways and roads, to bring awareness to anyone that sees them. And from what I understand, it's millions. So that the public is aware nationwide that a 15-year-old boy named Sebastian Rogers is missing since February the 26th of 2024 from his home in Hendersonville, Tennessee. And Tiffany Marie has a fucking issue with that. And wants those who were watching, and there were, I can't give you a precise number, but over 1,000. And perhaps nearer 2,000 people watching the live stream on Queen Bee when Tiffany Marie pulls her, to borrow a word from No Kitty, from No Baby, from Queen Bee, Tiffany Marie's shenanigans. Now I have, hang on guys, hang on. No Kitty, no Kitty. Sorry guys, I've got one kitty trying to eat and another kitty trying to bother her right on the other side of this camera. Hi Tears Ran Dry, hi Angie's Fine, hi Kit Bridge. Mommy, I'm not going to tell you again now. You're fixing to make me aggravated or irritated. You don't aggravate a person. I know I clarify that all the time. You aggravate a situation, like Tiffany Marie. I have said a number of times in the past and have not changed my mind, and I don't see any way that I will. Tiffany Marie, if you see this, bitch, you need to slither your nasty ass back into your coffin. Your channel is dead. You have no content unless you are dragging or tearing down other YouTubers or their subs. You need to go back to the drama community from whence you came. And keep your nasty, snotty nose, sniffany, out of the business of people on this side of the YouTube coin who are actually serious and want to really do something meaningful. And let me tell you something else, anybody and everybody that's watching or listening. Tiffany Marie claimed on Queen Bee's live stream that she and Benny Keys started the blip boards for Summer Wells. You're a fucking liar. You became aware of the blip boards because of Mr. Vernon, whatever his last name is, because he started the blip boards. And you got your panties all up in a fucking wad over it. And decided to start some shit over that. You lied on Queen Bees about you and Benny starting the blip boards, just like you lied about having written a $1,500 check to the Summer Wells Award Fund. Now, when I say go back to the drama community, oh, I forgot. They kicked your nasty ass out. They don't want you. Neither do we. When I want to start shit, I come on my own channel. That's what it's for. It's my platform. It's a fucking soapbox I can stand on and tell bitches like you to go back where you belong, which is hell. Now you leave Dutchie the fuck alone. Tiffany Marie, you skanky piece of snail shit. I hear people questioning Dutchie's past. I don't know about it, nor do I care. I care what she has done since I have been acquainted with her on this app and through instant messenger. Dutchie is a fine woman with integrity, which is something that you not only probably cannot pronounce, Tiffany, because it has a T in it, but you certainly are not familiar with the quality of integrity. Maybe the next risque photos that you send out unsolicited to male YouTubers should be in your little high school cheerleading captain's uniform with your little pom-poms and little ponytails. Because the only thing important to you is you. And those who support you are as low as you are. So fuck off. And don't piss me off any more than I already am, Tiffany. If I have to, I'll start a third channel. And unlike you, I'll actually follow through with my little threat. You know how Tiffany should come on and it's like, oh, and I'm ending this live, and after this, I'm going to spend the next 2 weeks dragging you every single day, all day long if I have to. And then you never hear another word from her about whatever that thing is or was. She got no follow through. And I ain't talking soft pitch softball. I'm talking overhand, Tiffany. Hardball with a 96 mile an hour pitch. And you're in the fucking strike zone. That's it, girl. I hope I don't have to speak to you again about Duchess, Sebastian Rogers, and blipboards. Hi, Crooked Arrow. You want a cigarette? Have me a couple of puffs of nicotine. And then we'll have Snow White and say goodbye. Hi, Sally, Kit, Crooked Arrow, Carrie. I know I'm renaming people I've already said hi to, but waiting for your chat to come back up, babies, so I can see what you're saying. Puff Puff Bogart. Hi, Sandy Gant. Don't bogart that joint, my friend. Hand it over to me. And for some reason, that song always makes me think of and it's up against the wall, you redneck mother. I don't know why. Oh, thank you, Tears Ran Dry, for asking folks to hit the thumbs up. As usual, I forgot to welcome. Isn't that something? Hi, I'm Susan. Welcome to Live Love No More. And you can see, if you haven't, or you can hear, why I called the channel Live Loved No More. Hi, Connie. Easy Rider. Yeah. Sally, when the soundtrack from the movie came out, which would have been the late 60s, but I can't remember the year. Gummies knocked you out, blue eyes. That's what they're supposed to do, honey. I had a stereo hi-fi from the Western Auto Store. I've had enough of this. Let me get one more. That I had received for Christmas the year before, I believe. And we lived in Kansas City, which is my hometown, Kansas City, Missouri. We had a 4-bedroom apartment. And mine and my stepsister's bedrooms were on the opposite end I beg your pardon, uh, from our parents because we were teenagers and we liked to play our music and blah, blah, blah. Well, the soundtrack for the Easy Rider movie had come out. Of course, my mom had not seen the movie. And I don't use the GD, you know what that stands for. And the song GD the Pusher Man came on, and I mean, my mom had let me buy the album. I had hundreds of LPs. I spent my allowance every week on records and shoes. But when GD the Pusher Man came on and I had it cranked up, highlighting Their Way Home. Honey, I saw that you were live earlier and I missed it because I was busy, but I'm going to watch you here in a little bit. Carrie, baby, if you haven't already, would you please drop a link for Lighting Their Way Home? My mother I don't know where she came out of, but she came through the hallway and into our part of the apartment, and she walked over to my stereo and she took the arm with the needle in it and she took it and pushed it down and scratched it all the way across my record album and turned my stereo off. And she said, I don't know what you're listening to, but you're not going to listen to it again. Not in this house, because of the GD and and it was shocking. In the 1960s, you didn't hear those words. You didn't. And in our home, you did not take the Lord's name in vain. I mean, my mom would say, shit, fire, and save the matches. Or she'd say, well, hell. Or, damn it, sister. But you didn't use the F word. I didn't even know there was an F word until I was 16, 17 years old. Never even heard the F word. No kidding. But you did not. My mother would put, I'm not kidding you, a bar of soap straight up in your mouth if you said the GD. And I was mortified that she had ruined my record. And it was my favorite song from the soundtrack. Now looking back, hi Sassy Pants, I get it. I totally get it. And one way that I get it, to bring us back around out of a meaningless story to getting to one that might have a bit of meaning. Y'all know I have 3 sons. My oldest turned 50 in January. I came home from my office one afternoon. He had gotten home from school, and just like Mama, he had his own stereo set up and head for the whole, because we owned a recording studio, audio video production house. He grew up pretty much in a recording studio. So, plus he's an audiophile by nature. But he didn't have his headphones on because nobody was home. And here's what I heard coming out of his bedroom. I like big butts and I cannot lie. So I went to the door. I didn't burst in like my mom did on me. But in that moment, I was like, oh, this is what, this is how my mother was high Pindar. Now, it wasn't as bad, but he was like, I don't know how old he was, but he was in high school, okay? He was a kid. And he's listening to, I like big butts and I cannot lie. I mean, what are you listening to? And he's standing there. He said, Mom, I like big butts and I cannot lie. Anyway, I didn't tear up his cassette tape that he, and I didn't tell him he couldn't listen to it anymore because by then, of course, things had progressed, if you want to call it progress. You know, that's the only thing about progress that I don't like. You just can't stop it. I think my boy must be thinking about me. He and I have always had that. And I know this may sound a little ooh to some people. I was his. And if I've missed you in chat, I'm sorry. I'm trying to catch you kids as you popping in. And I got a tickle in my ear. My oldest boy and I have always had that connection. If he comes into my head, the next thing I know, I'm getting a phone call or a text or an instant message or something, you know. Hi, Mom, I was just thinking about you. And I was like, oh, yeah, I know. I know. Blue eyes, honey, what is it about your mom? I missed it. I'm sorry. Okay, before we go on, let's see what's going on here. Sandy, you held your second great-grandchild yesterday. He's 1 month old. Blue eyes, honey, it's hard for me to scroll back up on this phone. Oh, blue eyes, honey, where is it? I mean, don't violate your mother's privacy rights. Blue eyes, are you comfortable telling us where is the tumor? In the colon. Okay. Well, when I end the live, blue eyes, I'll go have a talk with the Lord. And others are praying already. And in my head, I am. Believe it or not, I can pray in my head and talk about something else at the same time. I really can. But I'll go talk to the Lord. And God knows who Blue Eyes Dumplings is. Therefore, God knows who Blue Eyes Dumplings' mom is. So I can pray like that. I like to call you out by name when I talk to God about someone in particular. I like for God to know that they matter enough to me that I'm calling out their name. I could be wrong, but it feels like it kind of gets his attention a little quicker. and a new great grandbaby. They're awesome. I've got 4 of those. Absolutely blue eyes. Okay, babies. I know it's going to be a bit of a awkward transition to make from talking about Blue Eyes Mom to reading a politically correct bedtime story. But we've already been on here more than 30 minutes, and I started out with only 58% charge on the phone. And so let's see how we can make a transition. Well, first of all, let's just take a deep breath, or I'm going to, in through my nose, and I'm going to blow it gently out through pursed lips. Let my shoulders drop a little bit. Think good thoughts for Blue Eyes Dumplings and her mom. Today's politically correct story is from Politically Correct Bedtime Stories, Modern Tales for Our Life and Times, written by none other than my tacky fingernail polish over the name of James Finn Garner. Copyright 1994, Macmillan and Company, New York, New York. I do not own any rights to this material whatsoever. All rights are owned by Mr. Garner. Hi, Rosemary. Oh, got to keep with tradition here. Thank you, Carrie, for the copyright disclaimer. I went to the dispensary yesterday. Did you know? Of course you didn't, but I'm going to tell you so that you will. At our dispensary, us old people get a discount. They had a Sunday discount on my favorite live resin terp tanks. This one happens to be pineapple orange. It is sativa, and I think it's called Hammerhead. As usual, get ready for coughing time. Not coffin, coughing. Ooh la la, got a mutant cough. If you ain't choking, you ain't toking. Smoke them if you got them. No fire in the hole over here. You know, the label always says that the activation time is 5 minutes. I find it to be immediate. So here we go. The politically correct version of Snow White. Once there was a young princess who was not at all unpleasant to look at and had a temperament that many found to be more pleasant than most other people's. Her nickname was Snow White, indicative of the discriminatory notions of associating pleasant or attractive qualities with light and unpleasant or unattractive qualities with darkness. Thus, at an early age, Snow White was an unwitting, if fortunate, target for this type of colorist thinking. Sorry for the coughing and the throat clearing, but there will be a extremely irritating amount of that during this long story that we're embarking upon. When Snow White was quite young, her mother was suddenly stricken ill and grew more advanced in non-health and finally was rendered non-viable. Her father, the king, grieved for what can be considered a healthy period of time, then asked another woman to be his queen. Snow White did her best to please her new mother of step, but a cold distance remained between them. The queen's prized possession was a magic mirror that would answer truthfully any question asked it. Sidebar. I forgot to give the preface to anyone new to our story time that if you wish, you may just listen to the reading of the politically correct version of Snow White, or not listen if you don't want to. But if you wish, you can play along with those of us here on Lip Lock No More, and you can insert any YouTuber of your choice into any and every single character within this story. The queen's prized possession was a magic mirror that would answer truthfully any question asked it. Now, years of social conditioning in a male hierarchical dictatorship had left the queen very insecure about her own self-worth. Physical beauty was the one standard she cared about now, and she defined herself solely in regard to her personal appearance. So every morning, the queen would ask her mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all?" Her mirror would answer, "For all its worth, O my queen, your beauty is the fairest to be seen." That dialogue went on regularly until once, when the queen was having a bad hair day and was desperately in need of support, she asked her usual question, and the mirror replied, "Alas, if worth be based on beauty, Snow White has surpassed you, cutie." At this, the queen flew into a rage and fired up a live stream on YouTube or went on someone else's panel. No, wait, that's not there. Wait. It doesn't say that. It just says, at this, the queen flew into a rage. The chance to work with Snow White to form a strong bond of sisterhood had long passed. Instead, the queen indulged in an adopted masculine power trip and ordered the royal woods person to take Snow White into the forest and kill her. And possibly to impress the males in the royal court, she barbarously ordered that the girl's heart be cut out and brought back to her. The woods person sadly agreed to these orders and led the girl, who was now actually a young woman, into the middle of the forest. But his connections to the earth and seasons had made him a kind soul. and he couldn't bear to harm the girl. He told Snow White of the oppressive and unsisterly order of the queen and told her to run as deeply as she could into the streets of Utah, into the forest. The frightened Snow White did as she was told. The woods person, fearing the queen's wrath but unwilling to take another life merely to indulge her vanity, went into town and had the candy maker concoct a heart of red marzipan. When he presented, I almost cut my tongue with my fingernail. Careful when you do that. When he presented this to the queen, she hungrily devoured the heart in a sickening display of pseudo-cannibalism. Meanwhile, Snow White ran deep into the woods. Just when she thought she had fled as far as she could from civilization and its unhealthy influences, she stumbled upon a cottage. Inside, she saw 7 tiny beds set in a row and all unmade. She also saw 7 sets of dishes piled high in the sink and 7 Barco loungers in front of 7 remote-controlled big-screen TV sets. She surmised that the cottage belonged to either 7 little men or 1 sloppy numerologist. The beds looked so inviting that the tired youngster curled up on one and immediately fell asleep. When she awoke several hours later, she saw the faces of 7 bearded, vertically challenged men surrounding the bed. She sat up with a start and gasped. One of the men said, "You see that? Just like a flighty woman, resting peacefully one minute, up and screaming the next." "I agree," said another. "She'll disrupt our strong bond of brotherhood and create competition among us for her attention. I say we throw her in the river in a sack full of rocks." "I say we should get rid of her," said a third. "But why degrade the ecology? Let's just feed her to a bear or something and let her become part of the food chain." "Hear, hear! Sound thinking, brother." When Snow White finally regained her senses, she begged, "Please, please, don't kill me. I meant no harm by sleeping on your bed. I thought no one would ever notice." "You see," said one of the men, "female preoccupations are already surfacing. She's complaining that we don't make our beds." Kitties. Sorry. Might have to have another kitty sidebar. It's because of the voices I'm doing. They're not used to it. They think there's someone else in the house. Okay. "Female preoccupations are already surfacing. She's complaining that we don't make our beds. Kill her! Kill her!" "Please, no," she cried. "I have traveled so deep into these woods because my mother of step, the Queen, the Queen ordered me killed."
See that? Internecine female vindictiveness. Don't try and play the victim with us, kid. Quiet! Boomed one of the men, who had flaming red hair and a non-human animal skin on his head.
Snow White quickly realized that he was their leader and that her fate rested in his hands. Explain yourself. What's your name? And why have you really come here? My name is Snow White, she began, and I've already told you. My mother of Step the Queen ordered a woods person to take me in the forest and kill me, but he took pity and told me to run away into the woods as far as I could.
Just like a woman, grumbled one of the men under his breath. Get a man to do their dirty work.
The leader held up his hands for silence. He said,
Well, Snow White, if that's your story,
I guess we'll have to believe you. Snow White was beginning to resent her treatment, but tried not to let it show. And who are you guys anyway?
We are known as the 7 Towering Giants, said the leader.
Snow White's suppression of a giggle did not go unnoticed. The leader continued,
We are towering in spirit and are so giants among the men of the forest. We used to earn our living by digging in our mines, but we decided that such a rape of the planet was immoral and short-sighted. Besides,
the bottom fell out of the metals market. So, now we are dedicated stewards of the earth and live here in harmony with nature. To make ends meet, we also conduct retreats for men who need to get in touch with their primitive masculine identity. So, what does that involve? Asked Snow White, aside from drinking milk straight from the carton.
Your sarcasm is ill-advised, warned the leader of the 7 Towering Giants. My fellow giants want to get rid of your corrupting feminine presence, and I might not be able to stop them, understand? My men, we must speak our hearts openly and honestly. Let us adjourn to the Sweat Lodge.
The 7 little men scampered out the front door, whooping and stripping off their clothes, and Snow White didn't know what to do while waiting. For fear of stepping on anything that might be scurrying about amid the debris on the floor, she stayed on the bed, although she did manage to make it without ever stepping off of it. Snow White heard drumming and shouts, and soon after, the 7 Towering Giants came back into the cottage. They didn't smell as bad as she had thought they would, and thankfully they all wore loincloths.
Ah! Look what she's done to my bed. I want her out of here. I want to change my vote.
Calm down, brother, said the leader. Don't you see? This is just what we were talking about. Contrasts. We can better measure our progress as true men
there is a female around for comparison. The towering giants grumbled among themselves about the wisdom of this decision, but Snow White had had enough. I resent being kept around like an object, just a yardstick for your egos and penises. Fair enough, said the leader. You're free to make your way back through the woods. Give our regards to the Queen. Well, I guess I can stay till I figure out a new plan. Very well, said the leader. But we have a few ground rules. No dusting, no straightening up, and no rinsing out underwear in the sink. And no cooking in the sweat lodge. And stay away from our drums. Meanwhile, back at the castle, the Queen rejoiced at the thought that her rival in beauty had been eliminated. She puttered around her boudoir, reading Glamour and Elle, and indulged herself with 3 whole pieces of chocolate without purging, or taking selfies and sending them unsolicited to male YouTubers. Later, she confidently strolled up to her magic mirror and asked her same sad question. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? And the mirror replied, your weight is perfect for your shape and height, but for sheer oomph, you can't beat Snow White. At this news, the Queen clenched her fists and screamed at the top of her lungs. For years, her insecurities had been eating away at her until now they turned her into someone who was morally out of the mainstream. With cunning and malice, she began to devise a plan to ensure the non-viability of her daughter of step. A few days later, Snow White, to be sure she didn't touch or rearrange anything, was meditating on the floor in the middle of the cottage. Om, Te Namo Gurudev Namo. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Snow White opened the door to find a chronologically gifted woman with a basket in her hand. By the look of her clothes, she was apparently unfettered by the confines of regular employment.
help a woman of unreliable income, dearie, and buy one of my apples?
Snow White thought for a minute. In protest against agrarian business conglomerates, she had a personal rule against buying food from a middle person, but her heart went out to the economically marginalized woman, so she said yes. What Snow White didn't know was that this was really the queen in disguise. Sock account. And that the apple had been chemically and genetically altered so that whoever bit it would sleep forever. When Snow White handed over the money for the apple, you would have expected the queen to be gleeful that her plan for revenge was working. Instead, as she looked at Snow White's fine complexion and slim, taut body, she felt alternating waves of envy and self-revulsion. And finally, she burst into tears. Why, whatever is the matter? Asked Snow White.
You're so young and beautiful, sobbed the disguised queen, and I'm horrible to look at, it getting worse.
Oh, you shouldn't say that. After all, Tiffany, beauty comes from inside a person.
I've been telling myself that for years, said the queen, and I still don't believe it. How do you stay in such perfect shape?
Well, I meditate and I work out in step aerobics 3 hours a day, and I eat only half portions of anything placed in front of me. And would you like for me to show you?
Oh, yes, please,
Said the queen. So they started out with 30 minutes of simple hatha yoga meditation, then worked out on the step for another hour. As they relaxed afterwards, Snow White cut her apple in half and gave a piece to the queen. Without thinking, the queen bit into it, and both of them fell into a deep sleep. Later that day, the 7 towering giants returned from a retreat in the woods, elaborately decked out in animal skins, feathers, and mud. With them was a prince from a nearby kingdom who had come on his mail. Who had come on this male retreat to find a cure for his impotence, or as he pretended or preferred to call it, his involuntary suspension from phallocentric activity. They were all laughing and high-fiving until they saw the bodies and stopped short. What has happened? Said the prince. Apparently, our house guest and this other woman got into some sort of a cat fight and killed each other, surmised one of the giants. If they thought that by doing this,
they could make us slaves to our weaker emotions. They're wrong, fumed another. Well, as long as we have to dispose of them, let's practice one of those Viking funerals we've heard about. You know, said the prince, this might sound a little sick, but I trust you guys. I find that younger one attractive, extremely attractive. Would you fellows mind waiting outside while I... Stop right there, said the leader of the giants. Those half-eaten apple pieces. That filthy costume. This has all the earmarks of some sort of a magic spell. They're not really dead at all. Whew. Sighed the prince. That makes me feel better. So could you guys give me 5 and let me... Hold it, Prince, said the leader. Does Snow White make you feel like a man again? She certainly does. Now, could you guys... Don't touch her. You'll break the spell. The leader thought for a minute and said, My brothers, I see certain economic possibilities arising from this. If we kept Snow White around here, in this state, we could advertise our retreats as impotency therapy. The giants nodded in agreement with this idea, but the prince interrupted. But what about me? I've already paid for my retreat. Why don't I get to take the cure? No dice, Prince, said the leader. You can look, but don't touch. Otherwise, you'll break the spell. Tell you what, though. You can have the other one if you want. I don't want to sound classist, said the prince, but Tiffany Marie is not, the queen is not a high enough caliber for me. Well, that's pretty big talk from a man shooting blanks, said one of the giants, and everybody but the prince laughed. The leader said, Come on, brothers. Let's lift these 2 off the floor and decide how we can best display them. It took 3 giants for each female, but they managed to get both bodies aloft. As soon as they did, however, the pieces of poisoned apple fell from the mouths of Snow White and the queen, and they awoke from the spell. What do you think you're doing? Put us down, they shouted. The giants were so startled they almost dropped the women to the floor. That was the most sickening thing I have ever heard, shouted the queen, offering us around like pieces of property. And you, said Snow White to the prince, trying to make it with a girl in a coma? Yuck! Hey, don't blame me, said the prince. It's a medical condition. The leader of the giants said, Don't start tossing blame around. You both broke into our property in the first place. I can call the police. Don't try it, Napoleon, said the queen. This forest is the property of the crown. You are the ones trespassing. This rejoinder caused quite a stir, but not as big a commotion as when the Queen warned.
And another thing, while we were immobile and you all blathered on in your sexist way, I
Had a personal awakening. From now on, this is the unbelievable part, kids. But here is our hope and desire for Her Majesty the Queen. From now on, I'm going to dedicate my life to healing the rift between women's souls and their bodies. I'm going to teach women to accept their natural body images and become whole again. Snow White and I are going to build a women's spa and conference center on this very spot, where we can hold retreats, caucuses, and ovariums for the sisters of the world. There was much shouting and name calling, but the Queen eventually had her way. Before the 7 towering giants could be evicted from their home, though, they packed their sweat lodge and moved deeper into the woods. The prince stayed on at the spa as a cute but harmless tennis pro. And Snow White and the Queen became good friends and earned worldwide fame for their contributions to sisterhood. The giants were never heard from again, save for little muddy footprints that were sometimes found in the morning outside the windows of the spa's locker room. The end. What are we going to do for funsies for story time now that we have completed? Politically correct bedtime stories, modern tales for our life and times, by James Finn Garner, copyright 1994, Macmillan Publishing, New York, New York. Darlings, we can always hope. But let's keep a level head about it. No, Sandy, you're supposed to feel energized and ready to take on the world. For because I am woman, hear me roar. In numbers too big to ignore. And I know too much to go back and pretend. Is Sammy Sparrow in here? I've been down this road before, and I've learned that I can't remember all the words. Hi, Kiki Eyes. We're probably getting pretty low on battery, although I haven't gotten the 15% warning yet. If I did, I missed it. And sorry, but my lazy eye is still acting up today. So I know that's a little bit irritating to some people. But so I loved Helen Reddy. Yeah, absolutely.
Love you too, Sammy Sparrow. Anyway, for anybody new, please don't see my eye and think that I'm having a stroke or that it's Bell's palsy or always, it isn't that. It's associated with the remitting relapsing multiple sclerosis, and don't know why it happens, and there's nothing that'll make it stop. So sometimes when I blink, that eye is kind of wonky. Of course, I'm kind of wonky, so I'm just trying to make sure I haven't missed anybody. And we've been on here over an hour. I'm glad we saved Snow White till the end. So we need a song. And to say goodbye, please remember as your day and evening goes by, I love you too, Sally. If you are a praying person, please pray for Blue Eyes Dumplings, the mother of Blue Eyes Dumplings. A tumor has returned and it is in the colon. For those of you who like to be precise with your prayer. So please continue throughout the day and evening and through tomorrow. If you're one of those that has a prayer list, maybe add the name to your prayer list. If you're one that attends church and they take prayer requests, maybe ask for unnamed or you know how. If you're one, if you light the candle, please light a candle this afternoon for the mother of Blue Eyes Dumplings. And if you're not into all that, that's cool. You can send out good vibes into the universe, just thinking Blue Eyes Dumplings mom. Just have, maybe do a little smudge with some blessed sage first and send out some good vibes if that's what you're into. That's cool. Been there, done it. So, all right. The song that has popped into my head today has absolutely nothing to do with anything except it is the song that I sang to the father of my oldest son that we were discussing at the beginning of this live stream when I found out I was pregnant with him. So I won't be able to remember all the words, and I haven't performed this song for a long time. So gotta stand up. People smile and tell me I'm the lucky one. And we've just begun. I think I'm gonna have a son. He will be like you and me, free as a dove, conceived in love. The sun is gonna shine above. And even though we ain't got money, I'm so in love with you, honey. Every day brings a change, love, 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 love. And in the morning when I rise, bring a tear of joy to my eyes and tell me everything's gonna be alright. I love a man who holds the world in a paper cup. Drink it up. Love him and he'll bring you love. And if you find it things your mind, better take him on home. Yeah, don't you live alone. Da 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 da. And even though we ain't got money, I'm so in love with you, honey. Every day will bring a change of love, 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 love. In the morning when I rise, brings a tear joy to my eyes. And he tells me everything's gonna be alright. Baby dolls, please continue putting into practice being kind to one another. I know I don't practice what I preach like I had ought to, but I am working on it. We're all a work in progress. Thanks for not giving up on me. Always remember, putting into practice being kind to somebody that it's not so easy to be kind to. Do it knowing that the blessing, the karma of that kindness is going to come back to you tenfold when you expect it the least, but you need it the most. And that's a promise you can take to the bank, and they'll cash it for you. Now, you don't have to go home, but you need to get your asses on up out of here. I got breakfast dishes to wash. I'll see you on the flip-flop. Sorry if I missed you in chat. Love y'all. Even though we ain't got no money, I'm so in love with you, honey.